Hey guys, I want to tell you a story. So recently, one of my locations signed up a gym member that has been sitting on our email list for over 2 years. And our salesperson was going about their lead follow-up activities. And while there weren't a ton of leads coming in, we incentivized them to go and create their own leads and activity. And so he was he was hitting up a bunch of people, and finally this person replied. They had never replied before. They had been lurking on our email list and finally came in to try the gym, and they signed up for one of our membership packages. And this really got me thinking about really what it takes this day and age to do lead nurturing and follow-up using all the technology that we have. And so I sourced a ton of statistics and data for the fitness industry, but really B2C sales. So the important distinction is B2C versus B2B. B2B, if you've never heard that term, means business to business. So it's like if I was selling mattresses and I'm going to go to a hotel and I want to land the big mattress account at Marriott, right? That's a business to business sale. It's very, very different. It's a different approach, different mindset, different cadence of activity than B2C. B2C requires a lot more urgency, a lot more volume, and hitting people from all different angles. So I want to give you just a rapid fire series of statistics and facts and insights that you can take straight to the bank about what it takes to succeed in B2C sales, specifically for the fitness industry. So let's get into it. So the first thing you have to understand is people that are buying gym memberships, when they reach out, they are typically reaching out to multiple gyms. So it either happens one of two ways, typically. The first way is they see your ad and they start clicking around and they are primed to sign up, right? A lot of times it happens, they've hit rock bottom, they walk by the mirror and they're unhappy with what they saw, or they're scrolling late at night and they just think that, you know what? I got to take action. So they are ready to go now. The problem is when they start getting into fitness searching activity, their algorithm on Facebook and Instagram, and probably Google too, is going to blow them up with every single gym and trainer in the area. So not only do they opt into you, they're going to be flooded with all of the local fitness and nutrition solutions in the local area. So urgency and action is incredibly important. You have to get in touch fast. Now, the second way that this happens is maybe they didn't get your ad popped up on their feed, but they had that moment of inspiration and they're like, you know what? I'm ready to take action. And they search gyms in my area or personal trainers in my area or gyms near me. And they click on all the ones near them and they choose a few to reach out to. And the statistics show that most people sign up with the first person that reaches out. It's as simple as that. If you can be first, you will more than likely close the sale versus anybody else. Okay. So that is the first thing, is urgency and activity is so important. Now, number two is you also have to understand once they lose that instant fit of motivation, like maybe they're scrolling late at night and they're like, you know what, I'm going to do it first thing in the morning. Well, guess what? When first thing in the morning comes around, they're typically sucked into the whirlwind of their life again. So when you reach out at 9 a.m. when it's okay to call people, or 8 a.m., they're probably on the way to work or packing their kids' lunches and chasing their kids around the house. It is fucking chaos. So you can't expect them to answer and have all the time in the world to do a sales call. So you also have to understand that you have to put out a lot of volume of touch points and reach outs. And just because somebody says or doesn't reply to a text message or a voicemail or an email does not mean they're not interested. That's the game that we play with ourselves, is we talk ourselves out of reach outs. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I get a phone call or a text message when I'm in the car or in the middle of something, and I just say, I'll get to it later, and I forget, right? And I want somebody to hit me up again to remind me of the thing that I opted in for, okay? So the first thing it's important to note is urgency and just how fast you need to get in touch with somebody to beat out competitors. And number two is the volume that it takes, right? You're not going to always get them at the perfect time. That doesn't mean you stop following up. There's an old saying, which I don't love, but I'll use to emphasize this point. It's follow up every day until they buy or die. And die could mean literally. I mean, we've had people that, we followed up with over the years that have deceased, and that's always really sad to see. But the other thing is die, meaning they've told you to go fuck off, right? You should be collecting go fuck yourselves in your lead nurturing and follow up. That's a good thing because at least that means you're getting opens, right? So there's my little opening rant. Now I'm going to hit you with a ton of rapid fire statistics on B2C and fitness sales. Let's do it. So the first series of statistics, it has to do with just follow up in general. So what's really important to know is on average, it takes 18 personal reach outs before you get in touch with somebody to collect a decision, either yes or no. 18 is the number that all the research shows you have to get to on average to collect that decision from a prospect. So that first week, that first 2 weeks, if you're not getting answers, keep going until you get a decision. 18 is the number. The next stat that I found was that 80% of closed sales happened after 5 or more follow-ups. So 5 or more follow-ups. Most people, and the other statistic is that 80% of sales reps stop after 3 follow-ups. So if you want to exceed in this fitness sales world, you've got to be willing to put in the work and put out the volume needed to close sales, which usually happens after 5 follow-up calls or personal reach outs. The next stat that has to do with follow-up is they found that sales reps or trainers that got in touch with a prospect within 60 minutes, also known as 1 hour, closed 7 times more sales than anybody else. So to reemphasize that point of urgency is king, you've got to build a system that lets you get in touch with your prospect within 1 hour of them hitting your pipeline. So the way that we do that is I have my reps at 8 a.m. when it's okay to reach out to leads or call people. They are ready sitting by the phone and they are automatically connected to our leads from 8 to 9 a.m. for whatever came in the night before. And then you can build in systems in whatever CRM you're using that you're notified and calling people the second they hit your pipeline. Speed is the key critical element here. On follow-up again, web leads from Google, so Google web leads are 9 times more likely to respond if you follow up within the first 30 minutes. So referrals, you can extend the follow-up time a little bit. There's not so much urgency there. But like I opened with, web leads are people that are like, I've got a problem, I'm looking for a solve, and I'm more likely to sign up with the first person that gets in touch. And this shows that they are 9 times more likely to reply if you get in touch with them in the first 10 minutes. So let's talk about phone calls. So the first thing is you should always do what's called the double call. So if you are supposed to call a prospect and they don't answer, hang up, call back a second time. So a lot of times this does 2 things. First, it bypasses somebody's do not disturb function. So if they have do not disturb function, which on a lot of iPhone users, it automatically comes on during certain times of the day. So I have mine set up pretty much all the time just so I can get more focused work done. And number 2, it also has more of a sense of urgency, right? If people get called twice, a lot of times they think there's something important happening. And, if they do answer, sometimes you can just say like, oh, sorry, I was about to leave a voicemail. I forgot to do it the first time, but thanks for answering. I saw that you reached out about the gym, right? So the double call is really important. Number 2 is, what is the best time of day to call a prospect? Statistics show that for B2C sales, it is between 4 and 5 p.m. is the best time to call prospects. Phone sale tip number 3 is voicemail. So voicemail lengths. The ideal voicemail length is between 8 and 14 seconds. So a lot of CRM tools that we use have an automatic voicemail feature. So what you can do, if you're not great on the spot or speaking like that, you can pre-record a voicemail. Make sure it's between 8 and 14 seconds that just says, hey, sorry I missed you. It's Devin from Engage Personal Training. Hoping to get in touch with you. Give me a call back. I'm going to shoot a text message to follow up as well. Do as many takes as you need. Get that between 8 and 14 seconds and always follow up with a text message. Hey guys, just real quick pause. If you're enjoying this, please hit subscribe, like, comment, share this with any fitness professionals that you feel like would benefit from content like this. Let's get back to the episode. The next thing, let's talk about cold calls. And when I say cold calls, I truly mean cold calls. So meaning you are out prospecting for new leads. A lot of people, when they think about phone sales in fitness, because they don't like sales, they think cold calls are following up with leads that came in. That is not a cold call, right? These are people that have raised their hand and said, hey, I saw your ad. I have that problem that you have to solve. That is a very warm call. So do not confuse warm calls of lead follow-up with cold calls. Cold calls are straight up, I'm calling you because I found your number on the internet and I think you may be interested, so I am cold calling you. Now, there's statistics around this. I still think it's a valuable strategy, especially if we incentivize sales based on closes. You can't just sit back and hope that the leads come in and pour in and their leads are good, right? If you are reactive in sales, you're going to be very ineffective. You've got to be willing to be a dog, go find your own leads and close business on your own. That's what it really takes to be successful at scale with B2C sales. And that requires cold calls at times. We do very little of it, but we also need somebody that is willing to do it. If you want to take the approach of cold calls and using that as an outreach strategy, which again, I do think is a good strategy, you also just have to understand what it takes. So cold calls are going to generate about a 2% conversion rate to an introductory offer. So if you need to close 10 sales in a week, which is generally what my number is at my main facility to outpace our attrition, and we're going to go a completely cold call strategy, we have to make 500 cold calls to expect a 10 membership conversion rate. All right. So again, viable strategy. It'll take you, a few days to do those 500 calls. You could automate things. You can use power dialer systems, but just understand the stats. And that's something that a lot of people don't consider. And they have completely wrong expectations for what it's going to take. And they get very discouraged. So you won't get discouraged when you understand that it is a 2% conversion rate. So you have to do 500 calls. So now let's talk about text message lead nurturing or SMS follow-ups. There's a few things that's important to note. The first one is the best conversions come from text messages that are less than 150 characters. So never send follow-up messages or really any marketing messages via text that are more than 150 characters. So it's important to train yourself to learn to get a powerful message across in less words. 150 characters is enough for a person to digest at a quick glance, which again, we're all moving, we're all, dealing with all kinds of distractions in the world. It's incredibly important to keep it between 150 to 200 characters for all of your SMS follow-ups. Number two is there's a really important strategy, and it's kind of a part two to that. In marketing, they have a concept called above the fold, and it goes back to the old newspaper days where if you wrote an article, you wanted the batch of that article to be above the fold, where if a newspaper was folded, you could see the image and the headline and the key parts that are going to draw readers without having to unfold the newspaper. It's the same thing with text message marketing. If you're on an iPhone, you've got a limited amount of real estate that you can read an entire message before having to scroll. You want to keep your entire message above the fold, which means fitting into that little window that they can see without having to scroll. So making sure you reduce friction by keeping your message very short, concise, and powerful. Another tactic and tip that we use in text message marketing is always send messages that keep the conversation moving. So when somebody reaches out and says, yeah, just tell me the schedule, never just say the schedule, right? Whatever they ask is typically not the real question that they want to know. All right. So you want to approach all of your communication with curiosity, because that's also going to give them something to latch onto. If I just say, okay, we have 5:30, 6:30, 9, 10, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30 p.m., and I just leave it like that, there's nothing for them to latch onto and continue the conversation with. So you want to always make sure that everything you send ends in a question. So that is something that they are incentivized or more likely to respond to. So if they ask what the schedule is, I might say, yeah, in a perfect world, what would you be looking for in terms of a schedule? Or we've got early mornings and afternoons. What's the best fit for your schedule? Those are the ways that you can kind of respond to them, but also keep the conversation moving and end up in a phone call or in-person meeting eventually. The last thing with text messages, just be a human, all right? They expect that they're talking to a chatbot. They think they're getting automated messages, okay? So the more human you can make yourself, the better. You don't have to, address every text message with like, hello, John, this is Devin from Gage. Just talk to them like you would be talking to a friend. Sometimes that even means sending photos or videos. There are times that I get a prospect that seems a little cold, seems a little, sales resistant. And I'll send them a photo of myself and I'll just be like, hey, I'm a human being that you're talking to. Excited to meet you when you come in. What questions did I have for you? You're going to get a lot more response and convert a lot more people if you just take the human approach and make sure they know they're not talking to a chatbot. Let's talk about social media sales. So another tool that you can use is your Instagram, Facebook, maybe TikTok, and using social selling. So there's a really big statistic that they got recently that said 80% of people that use social selling outsell their peers that are not using it. So the way you can do that is everybody that likes, comments, or follows your page, send an engaging message. So you either refollow them or comment on their comment and say thank you, or every follow that you get, send a message and just say something like, hey, thanks for the follow. Are you interested in fitness content or are you looking for a new gym? That's how you can really go all in on social selling. And the last strategy with social selling is follow as many people as you can. Because when you follow somebody, they're going to get a little notification that says Devin Gage follows you. And there's a big button next to it that says, do you want to follow them back? If you want to build your followers, the best thing you can do is go follow other people. Social selling also has to do with creating engaging social content, making sure if you're putting out content, you always have a call to action. You've set up your Instagram or Facebook and optimized it. If you have not done so, I recommend you check out Simmons Media. He works with clients all over the country and the work he's been doing is unbelievable. I actually have a really cool study that we're doing right now that I'm going to be announcing in the next couple of months about the effectiveness of organic social compared to paid social. So keep your eyes out for that. So finally, the last medium of lead follow-up, let's talk about emails. So when it comes to effectiveness of lead follow-up, so I always say phone calls are first. So always make sure you're calling people. Text messages are second, and then emails are last. People get so many emails these days. It does get the least open rates, but they are better than cold outreach. So emails are going to perform better than cold outreach. But they're not going to be as good as text message or a warm phone call with somebody that opted in. Personalized emails are always going to get a better open rate if the prospect's name is in the subject line or there's some personal connection that you have to them. Something that's really important is if you have a mutual connection. If I'm reaching out to John and I know their friend Sally, I'm going to put Sally's name in the subject line. Or if we're working with an athlete or somebody that they know, I might put the athlete's name. If it's an email to the coach or the parent's name, that is going to get an open because they're going to be concerned about what's going on with their athlete. So personalized emails are always going to get a better response than just some generic message being sent. The last thing I'll say about emails is 50% of emails are opened on mobile first. So generally, people are opening emails on mobile. So you want to make sure that just like the text messaging, your prime message is above the fold. There's very little real estate on your iPhone to get all of the text into. You want to make sure that all the values and benefits of working with you or what you're doing is able to be seen without any sort of scroll. All right. You can learn a lot about copywriting in advertising and marketing. That all applies to email writing as well. So that's it, guys. Those are my rapid fire facts and tips about lead follow-up using, social selling, text message, email, phone calls. I hope this helps. And just remember, urgency and volume are king. If you feel like, you're hitting people enough, Don't stop until they buy or die and tell you to go fuck yourself. We wear that like GFY, like a badge of honor. I want to collect as many of those as I can because that means that I am disqualifying everybody not interested and I'm whittling down my list of prospects and I'm actually getting opens because if they don't open it, they can't tell me to go fuck myself. So that's what I got for you.